Alright, boys and girls, this is our jukebox update here. As you can see, I've got the mech out. I've had it out for a while. And there's the rest of our goodies on the door there. The control, the TU7 control circuit is on the left, and the audio amplifier is on the right. The audio amplifier on the right is working fine, and once you get the jukebox to play a record, it sounds okay now. I've noticed the way the speakers are configured, it actually sounds better when you're far away from it. It's not a close range kind of stereo. But before, this would not really enjoy picking up records, and it was just doing some crazy. A lot of lubrication issues. Old grease turns to glue, that kind of thing. And I've gotten that loosened up, and it is switching from the scanning position to the play position. Okay, that's good. So what we're dealing with now is when we put in our quarter and make our 3 selections, the first selection will play. Certainly, always does. The second selection will play generally if your first selection was 2 minutes or shorter. And the third selection, probably not. You might get a random, and then at that point it will forget how to pick up any additional records. And that is actually listed on the forums. There is a forum that we can discuss these Seeburgs, and there's a fellow there who is a former Seeburg employee. I would say that he's a great resource, but he's a little difficult to talk to. We'll just put it that way. If you do wish to ask questions there, be sure to have your proper terminology, language, and service manual handy. Because if you just ask a rookie question, you're going to get a read the FAQ, you silly noob kind of answer. So anyway, the cure for that is supposed to be in our control circuitry over there. I did go through that earlier, and it's obviously been recapped, and I went through it again and did some re-resistoring, and you'll be able to see that momentarily. But there was one thing I could not address, and it was actually the one thing they specifically told me about, but I couldn't find anything wrong with it. We'll just go over it. Okay, so here's our TU7 unit here out of the system, and this is the area in which the 6X4 and the OA2 tubes reside. As you can see, there are a lot of blue resistors here. Some of the original carbon resistors, if they checked intolerance, I left them be. But this resistor, which is green, blue, orange, silver, that is supposed to be a 56K resistor, 2 watt. Okay, and I checked it with both meters, actually. We'll try the yellow meter, because I think I was using the red meter that day. But, let's see, is that meter, so it's not in frame. Let's back up here. Drat, and then I hit the stop button. So, anyway, this is supposed to be 56, and it checked out at like 55.1. On my other meter, it checked out at like 55.6, 7. So, it's actually reading a smidge low, which is unusual. Usually newer resistors might read a touch low, and old resistors usually read high. So here's a new 56K. This is a 5 watt resistor, which should be good. And again, it reads at 55.5 on this meter. So you would think, one would think that, you know, that resistor is not out of tolerance, it's fine. But I've kind of gotten snubbed by the board, because you're supposed to change that resistor when it's doing that. So we're going to do that, and we're going to see if we're in happy land. Okay, so that essentially completes the instructions as listed on the message board. To replace the 56K resistor that comes directly off the OA2, and also there was a 39 ohm resistor that came off of there too, like right off the same post, and that one, this one had gone way south. And you can see all these blue resistors are replacements, because whatever was in here before was way off, and most of these were like half waters, and I put 1 waters in place of them just because they're physically smaller, and that's what I have. you know, the older 1 waters were thick, and then the 2 waters were very thick. I mean, granted, we have a 5 water there, and it's physically about the same amount of real estate as the 2 watt that came out of there, right? Almost. Well, maybe a touch bigger, but you know. So anyway, that's a, you know, a ceramic whatever. That should be okay. Nobody warned me that said, oh, you can't use a ceramic, you got to use a carbon. You know, this is the kind of stuff that drives me nuts about forums and all of this. You know, they'll give you just a little bit of information, but we'll put this back in and we'll see if it's going to work. And if it's going to work, great. And if it's not going to work, then I've got a whole laundry list of things I'm supposed to test next, and I don't know, man. Okay, so here's where we test things. I'm going to select the record that I like, which I think I have the volume down, that I'm not going to, between that and the water running. So I have the one record which would be in slot B5, B6, and then I've got another one in slot E3. So those are what we're going to pick here, and we'll just see what happens. So there's B5. Alright, so there's our first selection and it's going. Cool. So I'll pick B6 as my second selection. And then we said E3 is the third. Okay, as soon as I made my third selection, it just gave up and said F you. Why would it do that? Well, that's great. It just stole my money and gave me the finger. And then wouldn't take my next coin. Well, that's a new one. And it didn't take that coin. Okay. What the heck? Okay, it took the dime. Let's try B6. Let's see if it's even going to play good. Nope. And we're going to get stuck at the end. That's a little bit of an adjustment that I need to weed out. Okay, so we're definitely still not fixed. So that's where I'm stuck at right now. So there's your jukebox update. Now what's so stupid is if I turn this thing off and back on again, it'll probably want to play ball again for a little while. So frustrating.